Morning, folks, whatever time you may be consuming this. Before we get started, as always, let me just make sure everything is good on all the platforms. Facebook, let's do it. Make sure everything is good. Yeah, you already see the thumbnail. You see what we're talking about today. The main event. All right. All right, Facebook, we're good. Let me go check LinkedIn really quick so we can get on with the party we about to have. I cannot wait to dive into this one today, boy. It's a lot. It's a lot of mental work, a lot of brain work you got to do if you're really gonna be prolific in your space, whatever your space is. It has got to be a constant grind, baby. But it is damn worth it. I'll tell you that. It is damn worth it. It is damn worth it. All right. Damn worth it. All right, and we're good on YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube. Good afternoon, good morning, whatever time. Like I said, whatever time you may be consuming this right now. All right, but I am recording this in the morning, so I'll say good morning. Anybody that may be new to my world, new consumers, any newcomers around, let me just introduce myself. My name, Aswan Crookshank. I am your one and only Move Swiftly speaker, former Division I college football player, and current 5-time published author and educator. What I do, what the business is all about, what you have walked into, something called Move Swiftly, where what we take is the lessons that we learn, the lessons that you learn on the football field, more specifically the innovative teamwork lessons that you learn on the football field, and we align them with businesses and business owners. So they have a group of employees, they have a staff, they have a group of hungry people coming in and out. Just in. Now we're going to try to keep them from coming out. We're going to keep certain people out, right? But we have a group of employees that are just as hungry and as passionate and as eager. We're training the mindset of our employees to have that passion and that hunger, that eagerness to them, that go get a mentality to them, to have it just so it's running just like a championship high school or youth football team. That's what we do over here in the Move Swiftly world. That's how we translate. That's what we translate the things that go on the football field, and we take them to businesses. So all that being said, let me just get, all right, first of all, what we're going to talk about today. Well, let me just put it up on the screen really quick, because I do have to make sure I get it off my chest in terms of how I came up with today's topic. The main event, baby. There was a couple factors. That really got me thinking about an event and what an event can do, what the right events can do, how an event you can hear about an event and think about a person, and all sorts of things start coming and rushing back to you when you think about the concept of an event, right? So this past weekend, I got with, listen. If you're really a regular listener to my work, remember about a year ago now, I was kind of blindsided. I'll call it like that. I was blindsided literally during one of my Move Swiftly thoughts by a former teammate of mine. Shout out to Danny Parker. Danny Parker, I played with him when I was in high school, and apparently he took a job out here in West Palm Beach, and I didn't know. I happened to see him at the gym right after I was in the middle of, or it was like at the end of one of my Move Swiftly thoughts. And I was like, yo, because that was like my boy, like that was my guy. And I didn't realize he was out here on Palm Beach. So it's been about a year since we finally got a chance to get, he was actually on the podcast last year when I was doing a lot of NIL stuff. So I did get a chance to chop it up with him. But last week was actually the first time that we really got a chance to get together at a bar. And, I texted him because he played at Duke. And every time this time of year comes around, whenever it's March Madness, the Duke basketball, just Duke in general, is dominating the headlines. So I made sure I shot him a text when I saw all the Duke headlines. I was like, all right, we got to get up for one of the games. So me and him had met up this past Sunday and watched Duke eat up some. I couldn't even tell you who they played now. at this point. This is what losing does, guys. This is what losing does. I can't even tell you right now who Duke played to get to the Sweet 16. That's how bad the game was. I mean, we were like, who did they play? Now I gotta look it up now. I can't even remember who they played. But that's what getting your ass kicked on national TV can do. All right, this is the problem. Sometimes, like, you gotta understand that now. All right, when you get your ass kicked, the people who the hell did Baylor? That was it Baylor? Yeah, 89-66. So when you get your ass kicked like that, you get forgotten really quick. So anyway, we watched the Baylor and Duke game, and we got a chance to catch up on each other's lives, and we'll probably be hanging out a little more. The thing is, before about last week, I couldn't officially say I was seeing someone, and I have she doesn't like when I call her my girl. I have a woman now, right? She doesn't, so I couldn't officially say I was with someone, but seeing that he is married with a newborn and all that, made sure I hit him up and like, yo, I need the advice. Whenever you get a new relationship, and this is true amongst men, and I'll probably talk more about this in a later date, but whenever it's man or woman and you're in a new relationship, it's important that, you as the man and as the woman, you go to your people that knew you before, and y'all get together and y'all chop it up and figure out, because that's life. It's important that you do that. All right. It's growth. I was talking to officially met someone, found someone that's for me. And, we as men, as former players, former teammates, for boys, we got to chop it up as men and then really, get into that. So, we got together, and he was telling me about what his wife does. And his wife is an event planner. And then, seeing that he's in the mortgage business, she's an event planner. I'm like, okay, all right. Boom, there we go. Today we're talking the main event, baby. We're talking the main event. And this is what the entrepreneurial journey is all about. This is why I tell you guys, I'm the ultimate wintrepreneur. All right. Whatever you may say to me, somebody might say, I remember actually somebody asked me one time, how do I come up with the topics on my podcast, or how do I come up with stuff to talk about? Being so consistent with it. And I remember telling him, I was like, yo, you can say something to me right now, and it'll make me think of a podcast episode or something to write about and how to think about this, because constantly I'm on the job. Constantly your mind has to be like clockwork. It has to be something that you're on 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. You have got to make sure you know it beyond knowing it. All right. So before I get too deep in the weeds of today's topic, let me just get through a few announcements, and then we will get the party started. First and foremost, speaking of West Palm Beach and church, and going and being a part of the church community, and really getting with the finding the right church home above anything else, finding the right walk of faith, developing a relationship with God, and doing the right thing. Danny was shout out, the player the guys referring to before. He was one of the people that really reignited that, because I remember last year, it was actually the summer, I had met him up at his church, the church that he goes to and stuff like that. And the importance of doing that first before you even venture into the dating world and all that. It's so important that you get in alignment with God's word. It's so important that you get in alignment with a church home, so you can figure out, how you can, regardless, live a life that's faith-based. Live a life in which you're constantly walking in your path, and in the path that the Lord has called you to walk in. All right. That's the most important above everything else. So all that being said, since that time, I became a group leader at a church named Life Church, and I do free boxing lessons every 2 weeks. If you are interested in doing that, be sure to hit that QR code that you see right there on the screen, or go to freeboxing.makeyourmove.com. That is freeboxing.makeyourmove.com if you're listening to this via audio. And as I mentioned before, for my business owners, stand up. Business owners. If you have not yet, go to freeguide.makeyourmove.com. What I've created is a 10 easy to follow, easy to understand 10-step system in which you can utilize right now in your business to where you can now have a staff, have a group of employees, like I mentioned in the beginning, that starts to become very motivated. And eventually, again, you work with me long enough, you're going to figure out ways to turn this staff into a group of people that are really hungry, and they have that, they show up to work every single day with that same hunger that a championship football team has at the high school or youth level. Now, the reason I say high school and youth is because when you get to college and pros, there's agendas being placed. It's mixed with a lot of money, and it becomes a business, which again, I'm not against. That's actually how I learned a lot of the work. But when it comes to your business and the business that you want to run, it's important that you keep a sense of purity, right? You got to keep a sense of purity, because obviously you're in the working world and obviously everyone needs to get paid. However, you want to be able to mesh that with them doing something that they really, really believe in. All right, let me say it again, nice and slow for you guys, for the people in the back. When you're a business owner and you're obligated, obviously, to pay these people whatever it is you're paying them to, move forward, or to do whatever job you're asking them to do, it's important now that you're meshing that need, or meshing that the requirement. You're meshing the requirement to pay them with a sense of touch. Something, you got to be a little mix of that, right? You got to put it. It's almost like when you're cooking and you got to put a little spice there. You got to put this there. You got to make sure it's all nice and spicy, or not spicy, but all of the seasoning is mixing together. You got to make sure there's a nice little seasoning of, okay, I know I'm getting paid to do this, but my employer, my boss, the business owner of the whole thing, has figured out a way to make it so I'm very passionate about the work, right? I love doing it, to the point where if it was feasible for me to do for free, I would do it for free. That's your job as an owner, all right? And that's what, again, I teach in my curriculum and things like that. All right, so next thing, final announcement. Patreon, so second to last. patreon.com/Alice144. Be sure to join that. In fact, let me just put it up real quick. All right, good. All right, there it is. Patreon.com. We have something, regardless of where you are in your profits. We have something we have regular season, preseason, and postseason, regardless of where you are financially. We do have a program for you, and can figure out something in regards to just helping you as a business owner who is struggling with turnover. You're tired every single day. Every time you look up, you're replacing a new employee because you yourself didn't figure out how you were going to make it so you can utilize the people that are willing to work for you, and you have not done that. All right. All of that is available on makeyamove.com. That's makeyamove.com. As you can see here on the screen, if you're watching this via video, you can shop, you can join the Patreon, you can book me to speak, or if you would just want to learn more about this as one Crookshank guy, who is he? That's available for you too. And you can listen to the #1 podcast on innovative teamwork, the Move Swiftly podcast. Been #1 for, I think we're approaching 3 years now. Been the #1 show on innovative teamwork. Zero plans, absolutely zero plans of slowing down. It's about dominating your space and being very prolific in what you say you're going to do. All right. So all that being said, let's get into what the significance is when it comes to events. All right, let again, what I try to do is make sure to, let me get a sip of coffee here before we get started. What I do is to make sure that everyone's on the same page, all right? And when you're talking about an event, you are talking about something that is put together to change someone's life. All right. It has, every single time whether you're the main attraction, whether you're going, whether you're part of the people setting up, whether you're the person that is setting up the stage, setting up the lights, it is so important that you take these events and you look at an event and you look at it as it's an opportunity to change a person's life and to change everything that they're living through and everything that they were before that event. they should be changed in that way. And the reason it's so important for you to do that is because that when it comes to actually getting when it comes to actually getting people to show up at the event, if you don't have a very crystal clear vision in regards to who would be showing up at an event, in regards to who you're going to be attracting, you are going to put a lot of time, a lot of money, a lot of effort into something that just is not going to work. Hear me from my heart. Hear me as I continue to talk to you this morning. All right. You have got to know it beyond know it. Be very crystal clear about who you would want showing up at an event that you put on, because when it comes time, when all the planning stops. All right. In fact, I have a whole lot to say about this concept of a lot of people planning this, because I teach, and I'm in education. As an educator, that is the mistake I see a lot of fellow educators make. I see a lot of other coaches make. In fact, tons of things that when I was playing football and, seeing a lot of these football coaches, they would over plan and game plan. And the results would be something that wasn't desired. The result would be something that was something that they didn't want, because they spent so much time planning and not actually doing. A lot of people fall into that trap as well. And it's relevant in today's discussion, because when you're thinking about an event and you're thinking about how you're going to create this event, you in your heart have to be very, very clear. You have to be very crystal clear on who you would want showing up to this event. Because if you're not crystal clear about that, by the time all the planning is done, no one's going to sign up. No one's going to pay for the registration fees. No one's going to show up. You won't even get people you won't even know the right people to reach out to, keep them in like a list or a CRM. You won't even know who to put in a CRM, right? You won't even be able to follow up with certain folks that are in your CRM, because you won't know where to start when it comes to the most important part about creating an event, about getting an event going, which is getting the people to actually show up and who would show up at this event. All right. So because of that being said, let me tell you why the two events, and I'll probably, as I'm discussing it, let me just tell you the two events that have changed my life, changed my experience, changed everything that I'm about. As you can see right there on the screen, the top one to the left, that's the Dolphins Cancer Challenge. And then the bottom one is Unleash the Power Within with Tony Robbins. And then the one on the right was this past bowl season. I went to 2 bowl games, one in Orlando, one in Tampa. But those two up top, the two that you see to the left, the Dolphins Cancer Challenge and the Unleash the Power Within, those were the events that created all of all of it. Those were the events that set off. It's like it set off a fire, it set off an alarm, it set off a trigger. Just like I was talking to you guys about Monday, it set off some dominoes. It started, teaching me how to set up the right dominoes pieces, and it set off a chain of events and created a ripple effect that led to some things that were just absolutely incredible opportunities for me. And I want to walk you through each one of these events. Both happened sort of simultaneously, because I moved to South Florida to work for the Dolphins. So I experienced it as someone that worked there, and then I experienced it as someone that was a participant in the actual Dolphins Cancer Challenge. I was a participant of it, and during that time is when I went to the UP. They call it the UPW. It's called Unleash the Power Within. Short UPW is short for Unleash the Power Within. And given what I witnessed there and what I saw there, that led me to say, okay, it's time for me to run my own thing. It's time for me to go and get back into the business and create my own brand and create my own opportunities and things of that nature. All right. So here we go. It was, I need a sip of water for this one, because it was a lot to as I was, it's Thursday now, so around this time is usually when I start thinking about topics for next week. And I was kind of bouncing around the idea of talking about infatuation over connection. And then another idea, I'm still kind of kicking around certain things in my mind in terms of what I'm going to be talking about next week. But I'm leaning towards the idea of breaking down the difference between being the exception or being the rule. So again, it's not all cleared up in my mind yet, but I'm kind of kicking around that idea. And the more I think about it, and the more I consider talking about that next week in terms of what's going to make you the exception versus being the rule, or what are you exceptional at, and all that kind of stuff, I just couldn't help but think about the transition that I made just about 8 years ago now. We're in 2025. Yeah, so 16, about 8 years ago now, the transition that I made from Maryland to Florida. And even as I was, catching up with my boy Danny, he had made the mention that, he had moved to Florida he was already with his girl, and they were able to start, like, they had already been thinking about it. He was with someone. I made the move just out of fuck it, I'm going. I just couldn't take living in Maryland. I had no job offer. I had nowhere to stay. I had no wife or anything like that. I just said, I'm moving to Florida. I picked up and I just left and just started figuring it out from there. So as I look at my situation, as I looked at the situation that I was in, and I think about these two events, Dolphins Cancer Challenge and Unleash the Power Within, it's like, oh my gosh, those two events were absolutely made for As One. They were made for the As One Crookshanks of the world, or not to single myself out, but just for the people who were in a situation, who had relocated, didn't really know anyone, but was just happy to be in the area, but still needed to figure out how they were going to build community, how they were going to make connections, how they were going to do certain things. And that's what both of these events actually did for me, is they created a reality that I didn't know existed. I had walked into a situation where I had this goal where I thought was a big goal. And then you go to this event, you meet this person, you meet that person, you meet that person, you meet another person, you see how that person got here. And then this story gets told, and that story gets told, and then this person comes on and speaks, and then you realize how small you actually were thinking. And then it's like, okay, I got to play catch up, because it's only so much that you yourself are going to be able to muster up and give. Eventually, you got to connect with another human, and that other human you guys connect together, and then you go build something absolutely spectacular. That's what these events can do for you. So again, to go back in the story that I've told on multiple occasions, I've told, versions of it, but this is a version of it in which I'm going to tell that leads you to understanding the importance of this Dolphins Cancer Challenge for me, and the Unleash the Power Within for me, because I didn't have the intellectual property that I have now. I didn't have the online presence. I wouldn't consider myself as kind of this public figure before when I got here. But now, again, when you, not toot my own horn here, but when you look me up, these things pop up because of As One, the work that I'm committed to putting in. And in fact, today, I'm finally going to be able to now actually start to run some Google ads and, get into the SEO game and all that. Again, we on it. Just stay tuned. All right. So anyway, so I first drive out to Florida from Maryland. Again, I wrote about this in my first book, but it's an old 20-year-old Mercedes-Benz that my father happened to let me have because he got his own new car, and, no radio, 16-hour drive, no radio. And again, luckily, I just found myself a job at Orange Theory and as a sales associate. And I left Orange Theory after a few months because I wanted to work for a professional football team. That was my goal, to do that before I turned 30. And I just had my 28th birthday. Yeah, I believe it. 28th birthday. 29. Yeah, it was 28. And then I, again, had to do, like, that's something that I wanted to do before 30. So the opportunity came and I was able to do it. And, it was, I was one of those. Listen, I grew up in the Northeast. I grew up north. So when I drove to Miami, and it was pretty cool. I ain't gonna lie to you. I remember actually FaceTiming with my parents. It was at my apartment. I FaceTimed them when I got back. I was in St. Petersburg, but I had gotten back from Miami to St. Petersburg. And I was telling them, I'm like, yo, man, it's pretty cool to say, I could just drive to Miami and make it back for the weekend. I enjoyed that. That was pretty cool. It was pretty cool. It's pretty cool to be able to say that. This is just for my folks who are from up northeast area and stuff like that. It's really cool to be able to say, I'm just gonna go to Miami for the weekend. I'll be back. Yeah, no, that's like a big deal for us because Miami's known as that spot. And again, I'm late 20s, single, good looking, attractive, and really into Hispanic women and all that. So I'm like, yeah, I could I could do South Florida. I wasn't considering it because my cousin lives in Miami. They grew up out here in Cutler Bay and all that. And they weren't the biggest endorsers of living in South Florida. So when I said I wanted to move to Florida, they pretty much said, anywhere but South Florida because my cousins weren't giving it great recommendations. But when I took my first trip and I saw what was really going down, I'm like, oh, okay, I might have to. This might be the spot. This might be the spot for me. So, when the Dolphins offered the position, again, it's a part-time position, it was like, look, I ain't been in Florida really that long. I might as well go out to South Florida, find something else to put me in. Again, the closest family I actually have out here I'm in Palm Beach now, but it's all the way in like South Miami. So it's like, being in South Florida, at least you'll have some family around and you can, kind of figure things out from there, right? So the plan was to get a job with the Dolphins and then, work my way up the organization and be, one of the GM or, do something in the brand, do something in the football world from scout to head scout to eventually becoming the GM, become a part owner, just build a career with the organization and stuff like that. Because that, again, me being a football guy, working with the Miami Dolphins and then being in Miami, again, like I said, this is the spot. This is the spot where you're gonna meet. You're gonna meet Miss Crookshank in South Florida. That's gonna happen. Like that I actually knew when I first drove out here. I'm like, okay, somewhere in South Florida, there's going to be a Miss Crookshank. There really is. You're going to meet your wife somewhere up in this area because I like this. I like how these women roll out here. I like this. This is new. This is new. So regardless, I was like, I'm good. And that actually is another conversation that I'll probably have with you guys next week in terms of us men when we go out pursuing women and what when you're doing it, the righteous way and all that, you kind of already have a feel of what you into and what you're not into. The women in South Florida, I was once into that. I'm into that. I like that. I like that. I like all that. Right. So anyway, see, I keep getting off topic. Anyway, I wasn't clear about necessarily what the job entailed when I got the job with the Miami Dolphins Foundation. All right. The only thing I cared about was the fact that it was the Miami Dolphins. All right. I just had to make sure that I was staying true to my goal and what it is I wanted to do, which is to be with a pro NFL team by the age of 30. So I had to take it. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. I had to at least be a part of it, see what was going on, see, some of the inner workings, how this worked, what that was about, all sorts of things. I just simply had to see what was happening in terms of how these organizations are run. All right. So, in fact, let me just pull it up for you real quick because I want to make sure we have it all here for you. All right, so let's look at it here. And now it's changed since It's changed since I've been with the organization. It's been a couple of years now, but it's changed. So, mission statement is leveraging the power of sports and entertainment to inspire a healthier, more educated, and united South Florida community. You serious? Absolutely. That's exactly the vision. That's exactly what it is I was all about and what it is I currently am all about. So you look at the programming and the things that they do. This is how I got started. I was a 50-50 raffle ticket seller, and I was one of the top ones throughout. You see, man, you see? Anyway, I did it before they had the ability to do it online, which was frustrating because I was always telling them to do it online. But anyway, these were all the things that we did during game day: 50-50 raffle ticket, and the video board messaging and silent auction, donation request, community, tons of things that this was it. Yeah. So the events, this was it. This was the big thing. All right. So here's how it worked. Throughout the season, we would raise money doing stuff like this. And then the off season, there were, here it is. Here's that word. What's the word? What are we talking about today? Events, right? There were events. There is Finn's, the draft. Oh, actually, yeah. So this is a little different now. Right. So they did have stuff for the draft. They had huge events for the draft. But this thing, the Fins weekend, I remember actually I worked one of the draft days. It was the draft where they got the safety. What was the safety's name? Minka Fitzpatrick. Yeah. So it was the draft where they. No. It wasn't Minka Fitzpatrick. It was Wilkinson, Christian Wilkinson from Clemson. Christian Wilkinson from. I'm pretty sure that's it. He's with the Raiders now. Yeah, let me just make sure I got all my facts. Wilkins. So when the Dolphins drafted him, they had an event. This was the draft where he gave Roger Goodell the jump up. Yeah. I remember. And then D Wade had just retired and all that stuff. So I was a part of the organization during this time when they had a draft party at Hard Rock Stadium, right? And it was something similar to this. I guess now they're calling it a Golf Classic, but it was during that event where it was the foundation. We had a table set up where they were promoting Fins Weekend, and Fins Weekend is an unbelievable thing where they have a boat ride, they have a golf classic, then they have something at the state where they're basically treating people the right way. And all of the programming from, women, you see it here, the Dolphins restaurant program. We're going to get to this. I'm going to get to the DCC in a second because that's the main one. But Junior Dolphins and unfortunately, the late Jason Jenkins, he was someone that I had gotten to know in the organization. So many things that they had put on, but all of it was made possible because the Miami Dolphins. What I learned, again, it's all about what you learn. What I learned, it's a self-funded operation. So we had to go out, grassroots type mentality, and go out and make a certain amount of sales throughout the games, throughout the season. So they were able to do these events and put on these events for the community. All right. That's the way it worked. And that's the way it worked. And that's what I learned. So I did it for 2 seasons. And when I first got there, I didn't know exactly what the Dolphins it's kind of got me curious now about how hold on, give me a second. I haven't looked at this in a while. So yeah, it's pretty much the same. So anyway, I really hadn't done much research on what the Dolphins Cancer Challenge was all about, right? Didn't know anything about it. I just was, again, there to do a job and do my job and try to leave an impression on the organization. So when I was asked to help out during the DCC, I got, you get there 4 a.m., probably felt like, really, really early, 4 a.m. for the event. And then you see the amount of people that come in and support this thing, the players that show up at the time. I believe it was Adam Gase. It went through Adam Gase, and then Jesus, I can't believe I'm forgetting. It was the coach that was suing the Vikings defensive coordinator right now. I'm blanking on his name. I can't believe I'm blanking on his name. It was Vikings D coordinator. Vikings defensive coordinator. It was Brian Flores. Yeah, Brian Flores. That was it. Yeah. So it was during that time, and he was a part of the DCC, and he gave a speech and all that kind of stuff. So it was an event that was very new to me. And you got to consider where I was coming from. I had just moved from Maryland. Again, just took a huge risk, didn't know anybody. And I moved out here to get this part-time job that I could have easily gotten while I was still living at home. Like every team in the NFL hires these types of sellers. Like it wasn't that huge, money-making thing, it was just a matter of the fact that the location was where I wanted it to be. And I was just doing something with an organization where it is I wanted to be a part of and all that stuff. So when I saw that this event is where all of the money that I helped raise, that I personally was a part of and personally going out selling and stuff like that, when I saw that this is what it helped create, and then the people I was meeting, because I was meeting so many people that as kind of just being a fly on the wall and being a seller of the foundation, the people that actually are responsible for putting the organization on, making those calls, getting the people to getting the donors in, getting the donations in, and, selling this and selling that, all of the people that they were bringing in and what they wanted their background to be had nothing to do with football. Again, obviously I have a football background, but the people that they were bringing in were parts of, in fact, if you go back and listen to an episode I did on the podcast about 2 or 3 years ago now with Javier, I believe it's Javier Sanchez is still, if I'm not mistaken, let me go check real quick. Let me check this out real quick. Go in the front office. Hold on real quick. Let me make sure it's still him before I start putting anything out there. Yeah, Javier, he's still there. Right. Javier Sanchez, he's still there. So what happened was I remember I had him on the show, Javier, if you look closely right here. Javier Sanchez, he was on the podcast. Go listen to the episode titled Miami Dolphins Foundation in parentheses. And he had a background, a philanthropic, like doing things, working events, kind of on the philanthropic side. And giving back and stuff like that. And that's who they brought in to run the Miami Dolphins Foundation. And if you go back and listen to his story, where he came from, his background, he had a background in, helping out with 5Ks and running events and all that kind of stuff. So all of that stuff was so new to me. Again, at the time, I have a fitness athletics background. I was looking to get in with the team, but knowing all of these things, like, do you realize how perfect of a situation, how much better of a situation I was in than what I thought I wanted to be in, which was to just be a scout and just focus on football all day? No, I was able to connect with a community that I was meeting people, getting ideas, and figuring out ways to build my own platform as I was seeing how these entrepreneurial minded folks were able to collaborate with certain organizations. Do you get my point now? Do you see how powerful an event is? That was just my first experience with the DCC. All right. So what happened from that time is at that point I had connected the dots, and I became a trainer for a company named PCA. They took me off their website. I recently saw that they took me off, probably making a few too many controversial statements lately, but I noticed that the other day that they took me off their website. But what happened was I went to a Dolphins coaching clinic, and I saw that this organization named the Positive Coaching Alliance, they were looking for trainers in South Florida. So I became one of the trainers in South Florida. And because that happened, I knew I needed to really develop as a public speaker. Right. That was the thing I needed to do if I was going to pursue it, because the job was to go out and do workshops and, basically teach coaches on how to be more positives. And they have certain principles and certain things that they go by. So I started to go to Toastmasters regularly, develop my speech, develop my communication skills, and, really get critiqued on that. And also what happened in that same, so with Positive Coaching Alliance, I took the initiative to go to Tampa and, host co-facilitate a workshop. Luckily, the person I co-facilitated with was a lady named J-Lo, who's also been on the show. Shout out to Jessica Perez. And Jessica Perez is a distributor for a company named Life Vantage. And Life Vantage I'm still actually a distributor with them. I still do, a little thing. I still make sure I make my orders and take my Pro Tandem, by the way, and all that kind of stuff. And when I joined that team, he had a connection with someone that worked in the event planning space with Tony Robbins. And when I say work, meaning it was basically his job to get as many people to show up to Tony Robbins events. And at this point, I'm like, at this point, you got to understand the two worlds that I'm in. I'm in the world of fitness where I'm motivating I'm a trainer at 9 Round, teaching people how to box and stuff like that, and, motivating them. And I'm also working for the Miami Dolphins Foundation. And, somebody like a Tony Robbins that can really help me create a framework for what it is I'm trying to do, what it is I'm creating, because obviously I have talent. Obviously I'm doing the work. Obviously I'm doing the things that I need to be doing to be productive, but I'm just not nailing it. I'm just not figuring it out yet. I'm just not, how exactly do you put it all together, right? So luckily at that time, I did have enough funds together to get a deal to where I paid to go to a UPW in Miami. And again, here we go. Oh man, you got to think this was at the time. I don't even know what they're calling it now. I know when I was there, it was American Airlines Arena. Now I believe it's the Kezia Center now. It's still the Kezia Center. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, that's it. So now they're calling it the Kezia Center. Before it was, forgot the name of it, what they called it after. It was American Airlines Arena, FTX. It was FTX Arena, and now it's the Kezia Center. So this is where the Tony Robbins event was. And man, listen to what I told you before, right? Driving from Maryland to St. Petersburg, and then driving from St. Petersburg to Miami for the interview, and then spending the weekend there, and how excited I was just going to Miami. So now I'm back in, downtown Miami for the UPW, and hearing and seeing Tony Robbins and, how people were moved with him. And then I got a chance to meet Gary, the whole Life Vantage team. I mean, and also not only that, but you got to think, during the firewalk. Actually, I have it written right here. I have it written in my book. Because by the way, the title of the book, Make Your Move, came from that event. But I have it right here. I'm gonna show you. Hold on one second. I'm gonna show you. For my visual people, I have it right here. Chapter 16. Make your move. Make your move, baby. Yep, and you see it, everything other Positive Coaching Alliance, the whole thing. And then hold on. Let me show you to you. I gotta show you. Bang. It was right there. Tony Robbins, baby. Tony Robbins. It was at that point. I'll show you right here. It was at that point, a few months later, I was trying to think of what my next move should be. I thought back to the event, and the idea hit me while I was driving to visit my aunt who lives in Miami, right? I told you I went on GoDaddy.com to see if the domain name was available. And once I saw that it was, I immediately made the purchase for the domain name. Make Ya Move. MakeYamove.com. Should I put it up again, guys? Should I put it up? It's crazy reading it right now because I haven't read it in a while. And now, wow, there it is. There it is. I had bought the domain name at that point when I was driving to Miami and I heard him speak, and now I had to create my own thing. And let me just tell you why. And I'm explaining all this to you. Let me make sure I say this as well. If you are thinking about going to an event and or you are trying to create an event, I'm telling you all this because I want to be living proof example as to how it should affect someone in a positive way, how it can actually benefit someone. And whether you're planning it right now or you're hoping to get people in or you are thinking about going, listen to everything I'm saying, because this can be the effect. This is how you have to approach spending your money on these events, and how it's actually going to be something that's going to be beneficial to you in the long haul, right? So during the 4 days, so the UPW is a 4-day, event, started like, I think it's like a Monday through Thursday or something like that. And I remember the first day, actually, again, guess it's like when I saw Danny, I actually saw another teammate of mine, 2 teammates of mine. Shout out to Mike Wallace and Jelani Jenkins. Jelani's been on the podcast too. Jelani played for the Miami Dolphins, and he was there in Miami for the 4 days. And man, I mean, to see them, and it was right after the firewalk. I saw them, and we got to chopping it up. And throughout that entire week, Tony Robbins would get the crowd all excited, like he'd be like, "Yeah, this," and then he would scream out. Well, basically, the psychology in which he was talking about, he was basically showing that when you poke your chest out like this, you're a little more confident. There's a video about this too online that you can check out. But he goes, when you poke your chest out like this, now you're more confident. Now you can start handling things. Now you can start making certain assertions, and you can tell your body language is positive. So he would get the crowd all hyped up, and they'd be like, "Make a move, make a move, make a move, make a move. Say yes, say yes, say yes." So because of that, it was stuck in my head. And I remember the next morning, as I was on the treadmill, I was working out, and I was thinking to myself, I'm getting tired, but then I'm thinking, make a move, say yes, make a move, make a move, make a move. And then boom, makeyourmove.com was born. Boom, the book, Make Your Move, gets written. So, again, that's the power of what an event can do. That's the power of what an event can do. All right. So that goes on. Now, the next year, I'm no longer with the Dolphins. I'm more so depending on creating enough money off my own intellectual property, kind of venturing out on my own, things of that nature. And I become a participant now. I'm a participant for the for the Dolphins Cancer Challenge. And then when I went from, working the event to now being an actual participant of the event, then it really started to hit me that, hey, when you're creating an event, when you're talking about how to make an event exactly what you want it to be, so much of it has got to be about longevity. How is it going to be something that you can create over and over and over again? Which is what actually started this entire conversation today, was the fact that every year we see March Madness, we see a lot of college basketball, and usually the main team, Duke Blue Devils, are a team that's usually being talked about during this time of year. The Duke Blue Devils, it made me think of my guy Danny, who played at Duke, and seeing that we're now living in the same area. Let me text him, see how he's doing. Let me collaborate, catch up, see how people are doing. And then it's able to kind of give you some thoughts, give you some experience, and really take life and have it take full circle and show you that you're blessed. You are blessed. You are absolutely blessed. You are absolutely blessed to be, regardless of whatever situation you've been with, whatever's in your bank account and all that kind of stuff. I get that. Listen, we all have struggles. We all have things that we're going to try doing. And all of us, every last one of us, me, whoever it is, we all want some more money, right? We all want some more money. We all want more things. We all want more, vacation, whatever we like to do. We all want more time with family and all that. We all want that. The truth is, you have got to look at your situation and say, I'm blessed because I'm here and I have an opportunity. And when you have these events, you can collaborate with those like-minded folks. All right. Here's the question. I'll close you out with this question and this concept and this idea and this understanding, as I've sort of just rambled along today, because it's so hard to talk about this subject without thinking about putting myself back in that place of where I was, because they truly were absolutely life-changing events. And I mean that from my heart. I mean that from a person who really, really took a huge risk in coming out here without really much going on. But when it comes to you and your situation, and the fact that you're here listening to me, and the fact that you have an opportunity to do something special, you have got to make sure you're not taking it for granted. All right. You're not taking the simple fact that you woke up this morning for granted. And when you're thinking about how am I going to connect? How am I going to take my goals and my desires and my things to the next level? As we've talked about throughout this entire week, from the big domino to the top 5 ways to attract your tribe, to yesterday when I talked about, the late coach John Bastos, to today, how am I going to take the things that are in my heart, in my soul, in my gut, the things that I truly desire? How am I going to take them and really align them, build out a framework, get with folks that have been there. The resources are there, guys. The resources are there. It is so easy nowadays to really collaborate and find an event online that you can consider, and you can call someone and you can have a conversation, and you can go to something that's free, go to something that's virtual, and just pick up some information. Just go talk to someone, learn from someone, do something in a positive way that's going to move it and to just get the needle moving. And then you're going to be able to take the things that really are burning in your soul, burning in your heart, and you can sort of align that, like I was telling you guys today, in terms of mixing and putting the seasoning together. You can take the things that are in your heart and align them with the way things are moving, and then just let it flow. Let it flow. All right. Let it flow. Let the thing just go. Let it go. Like all the work, all the things, I am living proof example of this, guys. You can look at my situation. I gave you a snippet. I don't even have time. I remember actually attempting to do this a year ago, and it eventually happened. But I remember going into a recording, a podcast recording, and saying, I'm going to give my bio. And I expected it to be one episode. It turned into 4 episodes. It turned into 4 hour-long episodes, where it was just an episode of just people, brand new listeners, people getting to know me and where I come from and what I'm all about. It turned into had to turn into a 4 separate part series in terms of where it started, from football to, now coaching and, living. I mean, it was insane as I was talking, and I realized, man, if you just give your heart, put your heart on the table, do something every day that aligned with your goals, so you did your part, then you've done what you needed to do. But you got to learn to appreciate the moment. You got to learn to figure out how you can not only appreciate the moment, but, connect and take a step in the right direction every single day. All right. So that's all I got to say for today. Again, tomorrow, we're getting into, as we do on our Fridays, Faith-Based Friday, be touching on the pastor's message. And again, I'm considering it. I've been kicking it around in my mind in terms of what I'm going to talk about next week. But again, most likely, I do know the LeBron responded to Stephen A. and all that, so I might address that if I have a chance. But I'm considering the concept of being the exception versus being the rule, and kind of breaking down that concept. But we'll see as we move along. All that being said, appreciate you guys more than ever for tuning in. We'll go back to our regular time next week. It won't be as early, but anybody that is tuning in, truly appreciate it. The format of the show is going to change a little bit, because I'm not going to have as many guests on the platform. So these live streams are going to eventually just go over to the podcast as well. I may get back into interviewing more guests. Maybe give me a couple weeks right now. Again, as in a new relationship, and I appreciate her so much for giving me the critique that she's given me. So we're gonna figure out this thing, but just know it's not stopping. Just know that it's not going to stop. The lessons and the constant public speaking that I have grown so great and enjoying, to the point where I'm enjoying it to the point where people got to shut me up. Now I'm enjoying it so much. So just know it's not stopping. It's just going to be exclamated to a point and just going to another level. That's all that's going to happen. That's all you're going to see when it comes to everything I do and all the work I do. So again, all right. All that being said, makeyourmove.com to connect with me further. You can go shop. You can go join the Patreon. You can book me to speak, and you can just simply learn more about me, or check out that #1 show on innovative teamwork, the Move Swiftly podcast. You can tune into that there as well. Everyone out there, continue to move swiftly. We will talk more soon.